can you get race fit for Enduro if you work FIFO? And the answer is yes. But there's a few things that you need to adopt, a few ways of thinking with your training, with your approach to riding that are going to be a little bit different to how you approach things compared to how someone who goes home every night approaches things. So I've got a few things here to cover. First thing is you need to adjust your mindset to be thinking that working away and working FIFO is not an excuse for not being race fit. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're not able to build your race fitness. It doesn't mean that you're not able to improve. It doesn't mean that you aren't able to get better. It just means that it's different. Are you going to be a factory rider? Probably not. Okay, but chances are, even if you were working at home, you probably weren't going to be a factory rider either. So you have to get that out of your mind that because you work FIFO, that's why you're getting A, B, or C result. Okay, that's why you're not performing how you want to perform. It's just that you have to look at the way you approach things differently and focus on different things to what someone who lives in their city and maybe goes riding a little bit more often than you do. The second thing is you've got to focus on what you can do, not what you can't do. So obviously going riding 3 or 4 times a week is something that you can't do. Other people have access to that, okay, and they may or may not do that even if they do have access to go and ride that often. But you've got to focus on what you can do. There's still heaps of stuff that you can work on with your food, still heaps of stuff that you can work on with your training, and still heaps of stuff that you can work on improving with your riding when you do get on the bike. The third thing is there is an advantage to FIFO, and a lot of FIFO workers overlook this and think that everyone who's not doing FIFO has got it easy and they've got a better environment to be successful or to improve on the bike, which is not always true. One of the great things about FIFO is you have consistency with your environment and with your routine for the day. So if you think about a professional athlete, right? Like, so talking not in motorsport, talking like high level, let's say like NBA, okay, where they're getting like hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts to go and play their sport. They have a chef or someone that cooks all of their food for them. Okay, they've got people that go and do their clothes. They have someone who does all of these outside things so that they don't need to do them, so they can just focus on their sport, which is actually playing basketball. You guys at FIFO have a very similar setup, right? You got someone taking care of your food, you got someone taking care of your laundry, someone's getting your room sorted and doing all the cleaning for you so that you can go and work, which is doing your FIFO work. But the great thing about that is you also have the structure with your work and all of those other things taken care of, which gives you a little bit of extra time outside of that to be able to go and train, to be able to go to the gym, and to be consistent with that stuff and dial it in more so than anyone else, because you don't have as many distractions. You don't have the distractions of like family or kids or people inviting you over to go and do stuff, or mum and dad calling you over to help them move around. You don't have all of those distractions. You can just focus on your training, where a lot of other people might be easier for them to access training. Okay, they might have gym gear that they can use in the morning or in the middle of the day or at home, but the chances of them using it, the consistency of them using it, is probably not going to be as high as someone doing FIFO, because your routine and your environment is set up for you to be able to be consistent, because a lot of those other things are taken care of. The next thing that comes up is you've got to pay more attention to the things that you can control, and building on that a little bit more, what that comes down to is with your training, you have to be able to make sure that the things that you are doing, the things that you are able to do, you do better than what other people do that aren't doing FIFO, other racers that aren't doing FIFO work. So the other guys might rely on bike time a lot to build fitness and strength and improve on the bike, because they can ride all the time. If they're riding once a week or a couple of times a week, and you're only riding say once every couple of weeks, then it's going to be hard for you to be able to build the strength and fitness that you need on the bike, because you're not riding much, right? You're riding once a fortnight. But if you can dial in your strength and fitness and all your off the bike stuff more than what someone else who's riding a lot, we can try and counteract that as much as you can. Okay, now there's pros and cons to both, but you've got to work with the environment that you've got. If you're a FIFO worker and that's what your lifestyle revolves around and that's the work that you do and that's how you support your family and support yourself, unless you want to change jobs, then you've got to find a better way. Okay, so go and find another job if it's too hard for you to sort out. Otherwise, if that's what you're doing and you don't want to get another job and happy doing what you're doing, then you've got to find a way to be able to make it work so you can progress with your riding when you do get back home. And that comes into dialing in the training, dialing in the nutrition more than what people dial in their training and nutrition who aren't in a FIFO camp, okay, who are relying on their bike time. So we're trying to counteract that. We're trying to counteract the off the bike stuff with the on the bike stuff, okay? The guys who are at home, they can maximize the on the bike stuff. We can't do that, so we need to be able to maximize the off the bike stuff, and that's our advantage there. There's a few common challenges that come up with FIFO work and getting fit for enduro racing. So I'm just going to tackle those and then give you some solutions that you can use to be able to help to build some momentum. First thing is bike time. Obviously, you're not getting as much bike time like we just discussed as other riders, and that's okay. What you do need to do though is when you do get on the bike and you are at home, you have to make the most of those rides when you're out at the track. So I know for me, like if I look back when I was riding and racing, I probably didn't make the most of the practice days that I had, the time that I had on the bike that weren't race days. Because we'd go there and we'd spend a lot of time like sitting around, having a chat. There wasn't too much structure to what I was doing with the riding. It was like, oh, I'm going to go out for a ride for a bit, come in, chat, do whatever, have something to eat, go back out, do a bit of a ride, come back. It wasn't any structure at all. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go out and do 30-minute motos, or I'm going to go and ride for 2 hours, or I'm going to go and practice skills. There was not much structure there. And the problem is when you've got no structure there with your riding is we tend to do not very much. And so I know this is true for our riders in the gym. When they go into the gym, before they work with us, they might say, oh, I spend an hour in the gym or I do this much training. They do more training when they start working with us because everything's mapped out. So they go into the gym and it's like bang, 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 bang. They're getting through a whole heap of stuff. Same as when you go shopping. If you've ever been shopping without a shopping list, right? Like, I don't know about me and my partner. Partner doesn't use a shopping list. I'm very structured and like to have everything mapped out. She'll go to the shop and walk up and down all the aisles and have a look around and pick out random stuff. We'll spend ages there and we'll still forget stuff, still not get the right stuff. However, on the opposite side, I like to be a little bit more structured, where I've got everything mapped out. I'm like, I'm going to the shopping center. These are the things that I need to get, and I go and I tick them off. And I can get all of those things done in less time just because I've got the list there, okay? So to come back to the point with bike time is when you go and ride and you do get on the bike, because that riding time is so rare and so in demand for you, like you don't have access to it very much as the other guys, you've got to make the most of it. And the way that you make the most of it is making sure that you know what you're doing when you go to the track. So if you're an enduro racer and you want to get ready for 2 or 3 hour enduros, then when you go riding on the weekend, you've got to be doing 2 or 3 hour rides, right? Because if you're only riding once every couple of weeks and you want to get out there and you're just going to go and do 10 minutes on a motocross track and then have a break for half an hour and then maybe do another 10 minutes and then, you know, have a chat to your mates, that's great. There's socializing is part of it. But if you want to get better with your riding, you've got to make the most of your riding time. So do 2 to 3 hour rides. If you're doing racing motocross and you're doing, 20-minute motos, go and do 20-minute motos. Because you don't have the bike time, you have to be making the most of it. You can't just be getting out there and fluffing about and going through the motions on a practice day. Second thing is equipment access. So most FIFO sites these days are pretty good, but sometimes we work with guys that are on FIFO sites that sounds like they're living in a 5-star hotel, and sometimes we chat to FIFO guys that sound like they're working in a concentration camp and they're getting the bare minimum just to keep them alive. So with equipment, based on the equipment that you've got, you need to be able to make the most of that. Okay, so sometimes you're going to have all of the equipment, you're going to have heaps of stuff that you can use, and that's great. Sometimes you're not going to have very much at all. At the bare minimum, like for our guys, sometimes we get guys that'll be out on like rural sites or like out in the middle of nowhere, and they're like more, I don't know that, I'm not a FIFO worker, so I don't know all the terms, but they're like exploring sites, or they've got like living in a tent or, things like that. They're more exploring and searching rather than actually working on a site. And so obviously there's no equipment. Like they've got to bring their own electricity and bring a generator and all the rest of it, let alone bringing a whole gym out there. So in those cases, it's about, okay, what can I do? What are the things I can do? And so bodyweight workouts are a great example. Like there's so many different bodyweight exercises and workouts that you can do to build your strength and build your fitness. Is it as good as being in the gym? No, it's not. But it's going to be, if this is the gym at 10 out of 10, let's say, and this is doing bodyweight workouts, that's far better than down here, which is doing nothing, okay, and just wiping out a couple of weeks, which is what a lot of riders do. It's like they'll go and train really, really hard for a couple of weeks and get this good momentum with their training. And then something comes up with work, or they go out to a different site or whatever, and then it's just training goes out the window. So they go up, they make all this progress, then they go backwards, and then they get back on the wagon again and go up, and they get to the end of the year, they feel like they've done all this work, and they haven't really gone anywhere. Consistency is the key with the training, okay? So sometimes the training's not going to be ideal for you guys. It's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have great conditions and the best equipment, but you've got to be able to make the most of what you've got all of the time, every week. You can't just only train when you've got perfect conditions and then not train when things aren't perfect, because for you guys being FIFO, going out to different sites, conditions aren't going to be perfect. So if you're waiting for perfect conditions, you're never going to get to your goal. And then the last thing is food access. So food is obviously a similar category to equipment. Like, some of you guys have great level of service when it comes to nutrition and food when you're out. You can say, hey, I want a steak and I want this and I want that, and they'll make it up for you and give it to you specially, and you get looked after. Other people, you get a Bain Marie full of random stuff, okay, most of it probably crap, and you're wondering, okay, well, there's not really much I can do here, and they don't take special requests. They're probably going to laugh at you if you ask them to, whip up a steak medium rare. So in those scenarios, you also need an action plan, okay? It's not enough, like, again, we're adopting that mindset of what can I do? Not, oh, this is too hard, I've got Bain Marie food, so I can never lose weight and I can never be race fit and I can never build endurance and never eat well. It's like, no, what can I do? What are the things that I can put in place to make sure, despite all of this shit that I have around me, what can I do to keep things on track? So there's heaps of stuff you can do. First of all, with your plate, you want to try and have it portioned so you've got some proteins, some fats, some carbs, and preferably some veggies. If you're trying to lose weight, then you need a little bit of a different strategy with how you do that, but there's a few different things that you can do. First, just focus on the foods that are lower calorie. If you're trying not to eat shit and trying not to gain weight, or you're trying to lose weight, try and focus on the things that aren't high in sugar and aren't high in oil. If you do that, you're going to be well and truly on your way. So focus on vegetables, focus on meats, okay? Those foods are going to be the best to fill you up and be lower in calories. Avoid the sweets and desserts and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, if they have it out there, it's easy to access. If it's just sitting there right in front of you and it all looks amazing, it's easy to grab. Fill yourself up on the other stuff so you don't want the dessert, and then you're going to have to use a little bit of willpower as well to not walk over there and grab something every night. The other thing that you can do, which we found helps with our riders, is we use like a hybrid approach of bringing some foods and snacks from home and combining that with the food that's out at work. So you might be able to bring stuff that you can have for breakfast and lunch, and you just have dinner out there, okay, at the Bain Marie, and then you do your own breakfast and lunch. So some examples that you can use is you can use a protein shake. Bring a bag of protein powder and protein shake and have that. You can bring some protein bars with you and just buy them. Like, you can use the Quest protein bars, the BSC protein bars that you can get from the supermarket. They're really great. They've got like 20 grams of protein in them, and you can use them for breakfast. You could have the shake and have the bar. You could use the bar as a snack. You could bring some like nuts with you. Okay, that's another option. There's heaps of options for snacks that you can bring away with you, but you've just got to be open to new ways of doing things. You've got to be open to go, hey, there are a million different snack ideas out there that I could possibly bring up to work that don't require me to, bring an esky or bring a fridge up with me. That can keep me on track for while I'm away. You can use like the microwave packets of white rice. Again, heaps of different options, but the main thing that I'm stressing here is the mindset. It's the mindset of, this is the goal that I want to achieve. Yes, I'm working FIFO. Yes, it makes it a bit more challenging and things are a bit different, but I can still make progress. I can still get to where I want to go. It's just that I have to have a different strategy or a better strategy rather than just going, hey, like, I can't do it, it's too hard. And so that's really it. That's the main thing. It's to stress one thing before we wrap up is it's the mindset. It's the mindset of going, I work FIFO, but that means I can still make progress on the bike. I still can achieve my goals. It's just that things are going to be a little bit different to the other riders.